Hello and welcome to another week of Soap Secrets, and we're talking all things Coronation Street to kick off with, and I've got Rachel Lucas here because Claire Ruck is on annual leave and the lovely Rachel has stepped in, so thank you very much and hello.
Hi Hannah, it's good to be here talking about all things soaps again this week.
Yes, I'm hoping that I can get lots of gossip from you and get my weekly fix. So, Coronation Street, Kelly. Really poor Kelly, we should be saying, is it? Because she's really struggling in prison, isn't she?
Oh, she's really struggling in prison. And of course, she's been jailed for something that she never did, the murder of Seb, whereas Corrie's managed to get off scot-free. But she is given a glimmer of hope this week because Sharon, who we know worked for her gangster dad, Rick, actually comes to prison to visit her. And she's got a bit of a soft spot for Kelly. And she tells her that somebody's made an anonymous donation to help, I guess, to help her fund an appeal for her.
Ah, so she might get the money to get a really good lawyer and try and find a caveat and sort this sorry mess out.
Well, I hope so.
But she thinks the cash is from her dad, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. She thinks the cash is from her dad because she doesn't know what's really happened to her father. But of course, we know that Gary murdered Rick. And then Sharon, because she also knows the truth, has gone to Gary and said, right, OK, you're going to have to stump up some blood money for Kelly and get her out of this situation because it's not on.
So I suppose Kelly, in the end, she wants to know exactly what did happen to her dad. And, will she find out?
Well, exactly. She tells Gary, that she wants to know what's happened now because this is all sort of been, her dad's been missing. She thinks he's just disappeared off to France because obviously with all his criminal activities, he's had to go into hiding. So she ends up actually calling Gary and saying, right, I want to know what's happened to my dad. You worked with him. You're going to tell me what happened. Will he tell her? Well, I very much doubt it, obviously, because it's murder. But I do feel it's a little bit about time that Gary got some soap justice now, because not only did he kill Rick, he also was responsible for the death of Rana, which was in the factory roof collapse because he'd sabotaged the roof of the factory. And it was 2 years ago, so I think it's about time by now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't seen David for a while, have we? But David makes a bit of a comeback because he's plunged into a bit of a situation with Max's teacher, Daniel, because he thinks Daniel's written Max off. But the reality of the situation is, of course, Max is actually being a bit of a nightmare. I mean, any of us who have homeschooled, we know how tough these teachers have it, frankly.
Yeah, well, that's true. And of course, Daniel's just started off in his career because, he's a trainee teacher now. I think he's been quite a few things before. He was a journalist for a while, wasn't he? Writer, I don't know. A bit like his dad, a bit like Ken. He just sort of like does all sorts of different things. But yes, so David thinks that we see that Daniel is actually helping out Summer because I think she's got an Oxbridge application to do, so she wants a little bit of extra help. But he's not really giving the same attention to Max, and David's really angry about this, which of course, you would be as a parent. I think you'd want the best for your child. But Max, well, he does have ADHD, so that's one problem, but he is a bit difficult for Daniel to deal with at school, and he ends up really winding him up. And then we get this situation where Daniel's wallet goes missing. Now, of course, because he's had these run-ins with Max, he publicly accuses him, but David's not going to be happy about this. No,
he's going to stand up for his son. And of course, Max was recently recast and is played by Paddy Beaver, and we've seen that the Corrie teens, and Claire and I have talked about this bit, they've been quite sensible. They're realising that they need to make sure that that age group is kind of up and coming because we're losing some of the older characters, and we're wondering whether they're bringing Max into the fold in that situation, that he will become a bigger character for Coronation Street going forward.
Yeah, I really think so. I mean, haven't the teens been so brilliant, I think, over this last year? You know, they've given them these really sort of strong storylines, you know, all of them, you know, let alone the kind of the Seb's murder and everything in the trial. So I don't know the reasons for the recasting. I don't know whether the previous actor, Harry McDermott, who left after 11 years, perhaps, you know, he might have wanted to move on. But I think we can see with this new casting that Max has moved straight into this new storyline. And I mean, don't forget, of course, David was a child and a teenager once.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know, now he's the parent. So
absolutely, and it's sort of the finale is the. Well, I say the finale, but it's Norris's funeral this week, isn't it? And a big character was Norris, and it ends in quite a funny style, doesn't it? Because Mary destroys something from the cabin.
Yeah, she does. Norris's funeral is not going to be kind of your straightforward funeral, is it? There's always going to be sort of something a bit ridiculous going on. And in fact, he's left lots of messages for, I think, little letters for sort of the different residents on the street, a few of which have caused a bit of trouble. But he also ends up hinting that there's something hidden inside the cabin's plaster paperboy. You know, it's been standing outside the cabin since, well, I don't know, it's probably been there since the 60s, I think. So this means that Mary wants to go and have a look and see what's inside it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can only imagine. That'll be another storyline. Anyway, moving on to Emmerdale, an hour-long special on Tuesday. It's pretty shocking because Paddy makes a bit of a deal with the devil.
Indeed. Well, we often have this, every now and again we'll have sort of like an hour episode on Tuesday, but there's normally something a bit special that happens, I think, with our hour-longs. And this week we've got Paddy, of course, doing a deal with Kim. But not only that, there's also Charity's life is left in deadly danger, which is really shocking.
Oh.
Yeah, so these two stories, though, are actually connected because they all centre around the Woolpack. And we know that the Woolpack is in real money troubles.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of pubs, I think, as well. They've probably tapped into something quite topical, I guess, at the moment, as they try and get people back through their doors.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a very hard year, obviously, in real life, and this is reflected in the soap. But they need somebody to try and bail them out, really. And Al has offered to invest some money in the pub. But, of course, Paddy doesn't want Slippery Al anywhere near his wife, Chaz. Funnily enough, yeah, because they had that big flirty thing going on a while ago.
They did.
And it did, in fact, almost split up Chaz and Paddy's marriage.
I do find that coupling quite an odd coupling, I must admit. The Paddy and Chaz thing. It feels like they're more friends than lovers, but then maybe that's just me.
I know what you mean. It's, yeah. They are really good friends, aren't they? But
yeah, exactly. That's how, and I suppose all relationships should be built on a good friendship. But you know, interesting. So yeah, I can understand why he doesn't want Slippery Al anywhere near her. But Chaz, she shuts up the pub, and the electrics go down. So sort of there's like a sort of a load of different things that are happening with the pub, aren't they, which are not good.
Yeah, it's not good. Well, I mean, also what's happened with Paddy as well to try and keep Al away from Chaz, then he's actually met up with Kim and he said, look, can you help me out here, keep Al away from the pub? And then Kim has said to Paddy, okay, but what I want you to do is to illegally dope horses for me, which means giving them performance-enhancing drugs so that they'll win in a race. So he obviously would never normally do something like that, Paddy. He's normally very moral, but he's a bit desperate for the cash. And then, so what's happening over at the pub while all of this is going on is, you're right, Chaz has had to shut up the pub. The electrics have gone down. But she doesn't know that actually somebody has been outside of the pub and deliberately cut the cable, presumably, I'm assuming, to make sure that the burglar alarm doesn't go off.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so what's going on is that this person then wants to break in and raid the till.
And of course, it's already in a bad way.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is goes back to what we were talking about originally, which is, of course, how Charity ends up in a very life-threatening situation.
Yes, exactly. So she ends up catching, she's in the pub, I think, when the burglar breaks in. The burglar doesn't know. She gets knocked over. She ends up hitting her head, and then she collapses in a pool of blood.
She's got a bleed on the brain, so I guess the question is, will she pull through, and who is her mystery assailant?
Exactly. It's really serious, this, very serious.
Yeah. So it's a biggie in this episode. And we've also got a cameo appearance, haven't we, from a former Doctor Who star, Colin Baker.
I know, this is a bit of a surprise. Don't expect to see Doctor Who in the Woolpack, do you?
You don't. I like it, though.
I know.
Well, from the sublime to the ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
Hollyoaks. Okay, so Mercedes, top points for being a trier.
Yes, indeed. I always think this. I mean, obviously, she's cheated on Sylver with his daughter's boyfriend, but I think she's still trying to win him back. She still thinks she can.
I bet she does. I mean, the thing is, she is a trier. I'm not sure that she'll get her way, but anyway.
Yeah.
Mercy finds out that Fergus is putting the screws though on Sylver to get his loan money back, but with interest.
Well, yes, of course. So she thinks a good way, try and get back on Sylver's good side, is pay off Sylver's debt to the nasty Fergus. Fergus really is horrible. But she ends up making Fergus a proposition. What could this proposition be? And will it make Sylver see her in a new light? Well, that's to be seen.
And Sylver's daughter, Cher, is in a bad way. Since being kicked out by the McQueens, isn't she?
Yeah, so she's been rejected by the McQueens because she tried to poison her dad, which is not a very nice thing to do, and he did almost die. He was in hospital. But she ends up making a desperate cry for help to him this week. But we wonder, is she in danger?
Yeah, is she? Probably. It's Hollyoaks, Rachel. And Marnie's hiring at the salon.
Yeah, she's hiring at the salon, so if anybody wants a job, because I think the only two applicants seem to be Becky, who's the arch manipulator, and her scam artist, Donna Marie.
And Marnie decides that Becky will probably be less trouble than Donna Marie.
Yes, I think she's probably right there. Donna Marie does tend to cause quite a lot of trouble, and in fact she's doing that this week. So Becky gets the job, but then Donna Marie decides that she wants the job, and she thinks a little mice problem in the cafe might actually make Becky leave, so she ends up sabotaging her. But will her plan work?
Everyone's so nasty in these soaps, aren't they?
I know.
Anyway, finally, but definitely not least, EastEnders. Raine really doesn't do things by halves, though, does she? And she's causing big trouble for the Carters because she's got a bit of a harebrained scheme.
Yeah, well, it certainly seems that way. Nancy goes out for a walk and she sees flyers all around the square claiming that Max is the father of Linda's baby. Now, Raine has suspected the truth for some time and she's looking really smug, which completely riles Mick. He's due to put his name on the baby's birth certificate tomorrow, so he's horrified.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah, him and Linda don't want anybody to know that he's not the father of the baby. So he's going to take matter into his own hands to make her keep her mouth shut.
Oh, no. He's not going to do anything bad, is he?
Wow, what will he do? Well, I can't say, but I know it's not going to be good for Raine.
Oh, dear. No, Mick. Don't do that. And it's not just Raine in trouble, because Bobby is also in trouble this week, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. There's trouble for him. I mean, the fact that Dana's still with him, considering his past as being in prison, and the fact that her dad hates them being together, is actually a bit of a miracle, I think. But this week we'll see that Bobby Dana and all of his mates, they're subjected to some really hateful taunts from a group of men outside the mosque, because they're actually handing out flyers for the new mosque. Well, they're not outside the mosque, they're handing out flyers for the new mosque.
Do you know what? Another tricky subject area to go, near, but one that absolutely should be dealt with. That's really as awful to see, but probably a stark reality. Harvey's sort of involved, isn't he, this week a bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he's going to be really outraged by what happens, because what's also happened is that Dana ends up being attacked by these men a bit later on, and Bobby just stands by. He doesn't do anything to try and stop it or intervene. So, of course, Harvey, protective dad, is really worried about his daughter and really shocked that Bobby didn't try to help. But I don't know whether it's because obviously Bobby's got a criminal record, so I don't know whether it's just that he's worried that he'll get sent back to prison, that he didn't help out, or whether it's just that he's in shock, he doesn't really know what to do when it happens.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, that all pales into insignificance, because my favourite character of all time, Janine, I mean, she is back with a bang. And more Janine shenanigans this week, because she ends up in bed with Nancy's ex, Zach.
Yeah, well, exactly. Sort of like she doesn't do things by halves, does she? It's really.
I mean, we've got a serious storyline, which is absolutely, so important. I totally get that. And then you've got this storyline, which just makes me smile.
I know. She's been so brilliant, hasn't she, involved in everything. And this week, she's actually ends up in bed with Nancy's ex, Zach.
Wow. I mean, she was always going to hit the square hard, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Well, exactly. So I think this will end up causing a little bit of trouble between her and the Carters, but we'll see. So.
Yeah, I think it might. Yeah. But then there's never a dull moment in a soap.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Rachel. That really takes us to the end of Soap Secrets this week, but we will be back next week with more gossip, more interesting stories, and, well, everything you need to know before you sit down each evening, if you can find the time to watch the soaps. Although you can watch them on catch-up, can't you, these days, Rachel?
Yes, exactly. You can watch them on catch-up. So.
You can binge watch.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and we will be back next week.